Every day, millions of people have an idea for a TV show. Thousands of those ideas get written down, and maybe like 12 get pitched and greenlit for a pilot. Now, if you're not familiar with the TV production process, a pilot is basically a test episode, so a network can see if a series will be good, or like the Ryan Wilder seasons of Batwoman. Very few of these pilots ever see the light of day. Most get recast, edited, or changed to be repurposed as a first episode. Changes differ from things as small as The Gang and Always Sunny being a group of struggling actors changed to friends owning a bar, or as big as Danny Tanner being played by John Posey in the Full House pilot. Could you believe the world we live in if the guy who replaced Bill Cosby, America's stepdad if you will, was a guy that's biggest acting credit was 6 episodes of How to Get Away with Murder? Nobody's even watched that show before. The sad fact is, most pilots don't ever even make it that far. 90% of pilots aren't even seen by the public, which was the case with today's topic. Hey man, you talking about pilots in here?
Huh? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Richard, I'm a pilot.
Well, I was ready to move from comic book media today and talk about my other passion. People that fly planes. But I guess we're talking about Wonder Woman.
Dude, that was a bad joke even for you.
In 2010, rumors started popping up that David E. Kelley, creator of Ally McBeal and Big Little Lies, 2 shows I never thought I'd mention on this show, was working with Warner Brothers to pitch a Wonder Woman series. And pretty much every network turned it down, except for the home of Kenan Thompson, NBC, which ordered a pilot starring Adrian Palicki, who just so happened to play the villain in another failed pilot for Aquaman I talked about a few months ago. NBC eventually ended up passing on the series before the pilot was even completely finished due to the poor reception from critics that watched the early screeners, with one critic even calling the pilot embarrassing. And that really should be the end of the story, but later that year in July during San Diego Comic-Con, clips from the pilot started appearing on YouTube, and eventually the whole pilot leaked to the internet. And even though WB was taking down clips as fast as they were uploaded, you can never really erase something from the internet. And the full pilot can still be viewed in its entirety online through various means to this day. But why was the pilot passed on? Well, let's find out. The series opens with a kid getting into college and then his eyes start bleeding because he watched the Ryan Wilder seasons of Batwoman. Oh! Got him again. It then cuts to Wonder Woman chasing a bald man through the streets, and I got really excited because I thought this guy was NoHo Hank. Turns out he's actually just a different white bald guy, but he is the motion capture actor for Kratos, so I guess that's pretty cool too. But this is where we get our first look at the redesigned Wonder Woman costume that ditches the classic star-spangled underpants for some basic blue leggings with stars on the side, which was widely criticized at the time by critics, and even Fox News ran a story on it. So this Wonder Woman was the original green M&M.
The green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. Now she's wearing sensible sneakers. Why the change? Because leading women do not wear sexy boots. Leading women wear frumpy shoes. The frumpier, the better.
Fox News' biggest issue with the costume was that it lacked American patriotism, which makes a lot of sense for a character based in Greek mythology, who is also an immigrant from a made-up island. Although the response wasn't all bad, original Wonder Woman TV series star Linda Carter called both Adrian and the costume beautiful. And I personally like the suit. I've never been a fan of the American flag underpants. However, I do think the costume worn later by Gal Gadot with the warrior skirt is the best looking on-screen costume so far, but I wouldn't say this one's bad by any means. But if we get back to the show, Wonder Woman catches the guy with her lasso and then slides him across the ground to the police like she's playing shuffleboard with his body. And after this is where the show decides to take a page out of the CW playbook and take some strange liberties with the Wonder Woman character. In this series, not only is she Wonder Woman, with the secret identity of Diana Prince, but they just decided to make up a third entire personality for her named Diana Themyscira. Diana Themyscira is the founder of Themyscira Industries, the company that funds all of Wonder Woman's crime fighting, but also sells Wonder Woman dolls to get the money to fund the crime fighting. Oh, and everyone knows that this personality is also Wonder Woman, but they don't know that Diana Prince is. This is incredibly hard to follow and took me way longer than I'd like to admit to realize. It also renders the Diana Prince character pretty much unnecessary. All she does in this episode is watch The Notebook with her cat and make a Facebook profile, so that's really all I'm going to cover for her. After catching the guy in the street, she then flies her very visible jet to Themyscira, the business, not the island. And here is where we meet the CEO of Themyscira, the business, Henry, and Diana's best friend, Etta Candy, who is played by Joanne from Rent, a movie I definitely did not fall asleep in the first 6 minutes of. The next 10 minutes or so of this episode is pretty boring with not much happening outside of stiff acting and business. Except for this little Dr. Phil cameo on the TV in the background. I see you, Dr. Phil. I see you. That is until it's revealed that Tall White and Kratos and the kid with the bleeding eyes were both a part of a super strength drug operation run by a pharmaceutical company owned by whatever her name is that's played by Elizabeth Hurley, the Austin Powers lady. Diana then holds a press conference outing her and the operation, but says she doesn't have any evidence that the pharmaceutical company is behind it, so there's no reason at all for the press conference. They do use this scene to lightly dip their toes into racial issues by saying that they're targeting low-income households in predominantly black neighborhoods, and then they quickly move on and never bring that up again because I guess 2011 is too early for racial issues to be talked about on network television. Which pushes us into the next part of the show that matters, a board meeting about the new Wonder Woman dolls. Diana hates this new design for the dolls because of the costume they use, and also because they give it big boobs. Hey guys, it's me from the editor's chair, which is also the host chair, and my computer chair. Remember how I said that WB was taking down clips as fast as they were uploaded? Well, that also applies for this video because they took it down before it was even live for viewers to see. Originally, I showed a clip here of Wonder Woman expressing her opinion on the dolls, but I guess they didn't like me using that clip, so here's a dramatic reenactment of the scene for you. Now I know Amazonians are endowed with various blessings. We're not this endowed. These breasts are ridiculous. And they do a pretty decent job with touching on issues with objectifying women and how women are treated in the workplace in this scene when nobody wants to listen to her opinions on the doll. But they throw all that out the window in about 15 minutes, so we'll pick this topic back up when we get to that. From the board meeting, we move into more boring business stuff where Diana gets confronted by the Austin Powers lady, which is just more boring business stuff and more bad acting, until we get to Wonder Woman going to the hospital to visit Bloody Eye McGee. And the real important thing that comes from this scene is that Diana talks to Detective Ed, who is played by freaking Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal is without a doubt the biggest name on this casting list. In 2011, he hadn't really done much of note, but after this he climbed to the top of the acting charts as the Mando, and he recently relived his Wonder Woman days as the villain of Wonder Woman 1984. He's even playing Joel in the upcoming Last of Us series. I just love this guy. He does good stuff. While the rest of the cast continue to be as obscure as they were before the pilot. After meeting with Ed, Wonder Woman confronts Mr. Clean with a Party City Halloween costume rope, and then I think she kills him.
Tell me where the laboratory is.
I ain't saying nothing.
And after some more business, we get to what is probably the best part of the whole episode. By this point, I was pretty checked out and was about to scrap the idea of doing a video on this entirely. But the rest of the show is pure magic. Diana is informed that Bloody Eye the pirate died in the hospital and it sends her into a rage. So she goes to that pharmaceutical company making the drug to confront Elizabeth Hurley. Or, I guess, the character that she plays. It's too late for me to look up that character's name at this point. And here we get to see all our juiced up henchmen that look like a group of friends on their way to a Vin Diesel convention. Except for this guy. I don't think he's even taken the drug. Like, he's just a friend of the super strength guys. And then a roll-up door flies up to reveal Wonder Woman in the Star-Spangled Underpants. You know, those same Star-Spangled Underpants? The ones that she made a big deal about, objectifying her earlier in the episode? Those? Like, does this suit fight better? There's no explanation for why she's wearing it. She just shows up in it for whatever reason. The only explanation I can think of is that these scenes were shot before the costume redesign, or even reshot after all the criticism over the costume, because they do this whole suit-up sequence for it, but they never mention why she switched costumes, and nobody says anything about it, Even when she's walking around with the same guy that got shut down earlier in the meeting for showing her the costume, it just doesn't make any sense. After the door rolls up, it kicks off a big fight scene, and the best part of this fight scene, other than the fact that she murders like 6 people without a second thought, is that this scene isn't finished with effects editing at all. None of the wires have been removed yet, so every jump or guy flying into something has a full view of the wires, and it almost makes the scene better because of how funny it is to see the wires pulling everybody around. It really got a laugh out of me in the scene just before this when we get a shot of a busy highway and it says in big letters, "Add police cars," before cutting to a shot of Ed in a car with red and blue lights flashing behind him. Maybe I should start doing that here to get people to watch past the first 2 minutes. Next cue card, please. Like, if I just left in the behind-the-scenes stuff, maybe it'll get a laugh out of people like this did for me. The fight in this warehouse ends with Wonder Woman kicking a guy through a door into a hallway that appears to be in a completely different building. You can't even see the warehouse in the doorway. It appears to just be a wall on the other side of the door. And then she hurls a pipe into this guy's throat, which seems way overkill and kind of brutal for NBC. And this is followed by a very anticlimactic fight with the bad guy that's just Wonder Woman holding her up against a wall, before she comes across these guys getting injected with the super strength drug that all look like different variations of Sloth from the Goonies, ending with Diana getting reunited with Steve Trevor in the only scene in the entire episode to have some decent chemistry in the acting. See, there was this whole storyline thrown in during all the boring business stuff about Diana and Steve breaking up so she could pursue being Wonder Woman, and it was about as pointless as the ending of this episode with Diana Prince making a Facebook account to show she didn't have any friends. So I just kind of left all that out because it wasn't really important until the very end. So anyways, why did this pilot never make it to series? I mean, besides the obvious. The 3 Identity storyline is incredibly hard to follow. I didn't realize there were 2 different versions of Diana until well over the halfway point of the episode. And the business stuff is completely unnecessary. CEO Diana is irrelevant and the show would function just fine without her. Honestly, this might be the show's biggest downfall. All the worst parts of the storyline were wrapped up in that character scenes. She does the pointless accusations of Veronica Cale. That's what her name was. And she's the center of the extremely slow business segments. Also, the Diana Prince character is completely pointless by giving her nothing of substance to do. Honestly, if these 2 were merged into one character that people didn't know was Wonder Woman but still runs the company, it might fix a lot of the issues and you could have a decent show on your hands. Plus the fact that we're just thrown into the middle of the story with no idea how long Diana's publicly been Wonder Woman, along with every character having a fully formed relationship with Diana, giving the viewer no window into the universe. It almost feels like you're picking up the show 3 seasons in and you're trying to figure out all these story points that are halfway through the arc. Also, you're probably wondering why that property of WB-TV watermark is across the screen the entire episode. This was watermarked across the screener tapes that were sent out to press, and since the episode was never finished, any versions that you find of the series will have that over it. But if you watch it, you won't even notice it after like the first 2 minutes. Well, if you enjoyed this, like, comment, uncheck that like button, like it again, subscribe. Ask your friend if you can use their phone to make a phone call and then instead use it to subscribe to the channel on their YouTube account and say the person you were trying to call didn't answer. I post new videos between every 2 weeks and 2 months, so it'll be a while before they even notice. They'll never suspect it was you. And I don't think I can legally tell you to go watch Wonder Woman.